The member for Ballina.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I rise to contribute on behalf of the Greens and acknowledge my colleague in the other place, Kate Fairman MLC, who is our portfolio holder. We are not opposing the bill, but I must say I was extremely heartened and persuaded by my Nationals colleagues listening to the debate today, just around the fact that they're seeing the impacts that this could have on farmers, on their morale, first and foremost, on morale, and on an extremely, on regulations that very often, and I know, shout out to my farmers, very often go against what they're actually doing to catch the few. But what we love about this bill is that it's focused on those corporations that are basically getting away with taking hundreds of thousands of megalitres of water because the fines are simply nothing. And listening to the Minister's second read speech, I mean, of course, you expect the Greens. This is the first time we've seen these kinds of strong offences in terms of protecting the environment. And personally, covenants about water, to me, is going to be one of the most important things that we're going to discuss as parliamentarians into the future with global warming. It's becoming more and more of an issue, and it is the wealth of all of us. And I'm very persuaded that our farmers, particularly, I speak about my farmers, in prime food growing country, water, there's also the issue of an unscrupulous few who take more than they are entitled to, who speculate and sell to multinational corporations at the expense of their neighbouring farmers. And I have a huge problem with that. So we're very pleased to see that those sorts of players will face serious penalties. But I do think, listening to the Nationals, and it is great for me to actually see, like, them, this is what we expect, this is what we want them to be doing, is to talk about the impacts on real people and on farmers. And I think the government can go some way to, it's not hard, to make sure that there is reasonableness around mistakes and misunderstanding, because we've also seen that Water New South Wales is being gutted in terms of resourcing, and my farmers tell me that it's very, and it's no disrespect to those workers and those staff, but that it's so patchy in terms of the oversight, the checks, and like often I'm told, especially up in the Alstonville Plateau, that farmers will say to me that they haven't seen anyone for years. And then others will say that they're seeing people all the time. So it's disappointing, like, whilst we welcome and we support this legislation, to me, as a member for Ballina, it's disappointing to me to think that Water New South Wales is not being more resourced, but $20 million is, I'm told, is going towards the regulator. Mr Speaker, whilst we do think those new offences, and we think water offences are a significant issue, and the fact that there hasn't been that much prosecution does not tell. I don't believe that tells us that there's not too many people doing the wrong thing. I don't think your average farmer is, but those big corporations, I would love to know how much resourcing is going into investigating them. And so, is this about making sure that it's horses for courses, and the resourcing, my question is, what resourcing is going towards investigation and making sure that it's really, the eye is on those big players, the eye is on those multinational corporations, the eye is on those mega farmers, not your average farmer that we're hearing about today. Mr Speaker, as I say, for us, and we've spoken closely with the Environmental Defenders Office, the New South Wales Nature Conservation Council, and the New South Wales Department of Natural Resources Access Regulator. We welcome strengthened penalties for water offences, but I do think that there needs to be more discussion. And when I've heard today some of the detail of the bill in terms of the retrospectivity and I just think there needs to be more nuance. So whilst I'll get in trouble for saying that, because we welcome these penalties for those big players, because it's permission to pollute, it's permission to take water when you have absolutely paltry fines and absolutely paltry consequences. But I'm also very, very concerned about the impact on the morale of farmers, worried about these, of making mistakes that are not ill-intentioned. And so I encourage the government and the minister to work with everyone to get this right, because we certainly can't live without our farming communities. As far as I know, we can't live without food and clean water. And just to note, Mr. Speaker, I was fortunate to be a delegate to the UK Climate Forum at the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Climate Forum a few weeks ago. Was there with 26 other countries, and it was very, very sobering to be there with a lot of African MPs from African countries, MPs from Kiribati, across the Pacific, and they are furious. They are furious because those Commonwealth countries were colonised. They had their resources gutted from their countries, and they honestly haven't been the emitters in the world. They have not been, but they're expected to find economies of scale to reduce emissions, and they are some of the countries like Kenya are doing far more than we are in terms of reducing emissions and switching to renewables. But it was very, very sad to hear just about the impact of extreme weather events on the fact that, in particularly typhoons, and we know that in the Philippines at the moment, they've had 21 typhoons, I think, this year. The impact is there's no fresh water. So not only are we going to have climate refugees, but we're going to have in our own country, and we see when we have prolonged droughts, we are going to experience more and more pressure on our farmers and more pressure on our natural resources, which is the resource of everyone. So encourage the Minister to have another look to see if there is a way to make sure that honest and reasonable mistakes by farmers, family farmers, you could have a threshold that it's working with an education and support as opposed to harsh penalties, but indeed putting the resourcing and the investigation into those huge corporations that have no regard for local communities and have no regard for the law when the law doesn't, when they can get away with it without very much bother at all. Thank you.
The question is the bill be read a second time. I call the Minister in reply.
Awesome.